The summer movie blockbuster is an institution now, like fireworks and barbecues and sunburns. A tried and true tradition. But there are blockbusters and then there are blockbusters. You know what I mean? We're talking about those special summer movies that are packaged in hype as much as they are in action, visual effects, and drama. It's a grand tradition, but only certain films can truly be considered A-list blockbusters. Let's break down the top 10. The fact that George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road was a hit speaks to the sheer ferocity and electricity of the film, which was born from a long-dormant franchise and featured a barely speaking hero who kind of wound up being more of the movie's supporting character than the lead. In fact, there are so many wonderfully offbeat elements here, not just in storytelling, but also in characters, visuals, and daredevil stunt work. Basically, the action is the film and the film is the action. It rarely lets up, and at the center of it all is a remarkable heroine, played by Charlize Theron, putting her life on the line to save others from slavery and tyranny.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Tony Scott's adrenaline-fueled film about high-fiving naval pilots pushing the limits inside the danger zone turned Tom Cruise into an instantly bankable star of many blockbusters to come. It's a celebrity sheen he hasn't shaken off to this day, and while Top Gun garnered mixed reviews when it was released, audiences had the final word. Fans worldwide fell in love with the then MTV-style action that turned jet pilots into veritable rock stars and an accompanying soundtrack that went multi-platinum.
I feel the need for speed.
Johnny Depp had already been working constantly for 2 decades before stumbling into the role of a lifetime, Captain Jack Sparrow, infusing him with an oddball voice and swagger, reportedly based on Keith Richards, that clicked with audiences everywhere. What followed is a mega franchise, though it's easy enough to point to the first Pirates of the Caribbean film, The Curse of the Black Pearl, as the best and most fun of the bunch. Director Gore Verbinski's hyperactive style rejuvenated a dead genre and had viewers cheering for scoundrels and cutthroats.
Why is the rum gone?
Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, featuring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, deserves all of our heartfelt gratitude for putting comic book superhero movies on the game board. Sure, better ones came along later, perhaps even better Batman movies, but this one, with its gothic design, ominous tone, Danny Elfman's score, and Nicholson's jovial Joker, gave us a gloriously gloomy palette that was just serious enough to steer superhero movies away from being purely kiddie fare. Though he'd achieved leading man/action hero status in 1995's Bad Boys, Will Smith wouldn't truly break out as a star until the following year as part of an ensemble cast in Roland Emmerich's first of many famous landmarks get obliterated disaster movies, Independence Day. ID4 didn't hit a home run with critics, but the idea of an all-out aggro alien invasion of Earth featuring massive flying saucers perched over major cities resonated with audiences worldwide who'd grown accustomed to E.T. tales where the invaders chose to remain hidden. In Independence Day, the cosmic critters just chose to blast us out of existence, and we loved every minute of it.
Welcome to Earth.
Like he'd done with 1986's Aliens, James Cameron absolutely nailed the Terminator sequel by turning the film's gritty, gruesome potboiler into an awesome, crescendoing action spectacle. Arnold Schwarzenegger returned as the T-800, though this time he'd been reprogrammed to be the hero, fending off a nasty liquid metal assassin from the ravaged, ruined future. Everything worked here story-wise as the saga picked up 10 years later, and Linda Hamilton's once meek Sarah Connor was now a toned and tenacious badass filled with rage and paranoia. Exciting, emotional, and evergreen, T2 is still a must-watch.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Steven Spielberg roared into the 90s with a display of CGI effects smartly mixed with practical, and the story of salty scientists trying to escape a dinosaur theme park gone wrong. Seen as the director's return to the blockbuster blueprint that put him on the map, Jurassic Park made audiences react the same way Sam Neill does when he sees the Brachiosauruses, with just mouth-agape awe. Calling back to some of the most tense and thrilling moments from Jaws, and by sparing no expense, Spielberg once again showed fans he could bring them to the edge of their seats and leave them breathless.
Clever girl.
George Lucas and Steven Spielberg's love letter to the adventure serials of their youth gave us a magnificent mix of action, comedy, and face-melting horror, featuring a 1930s globe-trotting, whip-cracking archaeology teacher racing to stop the Nazis from harnessing the godlike power contained in a religious artifact. Harrison Ford, further cementing his status as one of Hollywood's most bankable bruisers, stepped into the swashbuckling shoes of Indiana Jones, and Raiders of the Lost Ark hit home with fans of all ages, indelibly influencing action heroes and action set pieces for years to come. I'm sure you don't need us to tell you just how iconic, influential, and game-changing Star Wars was, since we're all still spinning in the swirling torrent of Star Wars mania some 40 years later. Front to back, this film handed out magical moments that changed lives forever. Classic characters, dazzling special effects, a soaring John Williams score, and an instantly infectious lived-in universe rife with possibilities. The pop culture empire of Star Wars all began here. It broke the mold, and decades later, the fandom's never been stronger.
The Force will be with you, always.
There's a reason Spielberg films account for the majority of our top 5, including the prized #1 spot. Jaws was a terrifying yet crowd-pleasing blockbuster that changed the landscape of cinema. With it, Spielberg is credited with basically inventing the summer blockbuster. With its top-tier cast, its riveting climax, and its largely unseen for most of the movie Great White Shark, Jaws is still considered one of the best films ever made, and it gave an entire generation of moviegoers aquaphobia.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
For more hot summer action, check out Cinefix's best action movies of all time and our review of Spider-Man Far From Home. And as always, subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.